Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Black power.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Hey, folks, what's up? It is Wednesday, May 21st, 2025, coming up on Roland Mark Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. What happens when a black man who lived through the racist apartheid in South Africa has to listen to an American white supremacist criticize made-up racism. That's what happened when the president of South Africa visited the Oval Office today to talk to the most ignorant person to ever sit in the Oval Office, Donald Trump. Wait until we show you what happened and how pathetic America was embarrassed by this idiot, Donald Trump. Speaking of that idiot, that man does not believe in police accountability. His Department of Justice has now dismissed a significant number of cases against consent decrees against police departments. We'll have a full breakdown on today's show. We'll also show you the chaos on Capitol Hill as Republicans hold hearings at 1 o'clock in the morning about their beautiful budget deal. And also, we'll talk to a business owner. It's a part of our Shop BlackStarNetwork.com app. We'll tell you about that business in our marketplace segment. Lots to unpack. It's time to bring the funk. I'm Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
We told you this was going to happen if Donald Trump was allowed back in the Oval Office. And where are all of those people who were talking about don't vote, you're not going to get anything for it? Well, guess what? Today, Donald Trump, the twice impeached, criminally convicted felon conman in chief, his Department of Justice announced that they were dismissing several settlements, consent decrees with police departments who did harm to black people. A stunning decision, but it was one that we told you was going to happen. It was one that Project 2025 called to happen. How many times have we told you? Donald Trump ran and said he wanted to give police 100% immunity. But what he did today is no different than what he did 4 years ago. Remember, first time he was there, what did he do? His Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, his second Attorney General, Bill Barr, said they were pulling back on consent decrees because they were hurting the morale of cops. And here we sit, 4 days from the 5th anniversary of the murder of George Floyd. Donald Trump has said consent decrees with the city of Minneapolis and the police department, gone. Louisville, Breonna Taylor, gunned down by cops, gone. In several other cities. This is what this man thinks. He does not support victims. He does not support black people. He supports rogue, thug, killer cops. Let's talk about this. We got a full panel to break it all down. Reddit Hudson is a co-founder of the National Coalition of Law Enforcement for Justice, Reform, and Accountability. Tamika Mallory, co-founder of Until Freedom. Adante Pointer, civil rights attorney. And also Chief Mitchell Davis, second national vice president for the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives. Glad to have all of you here. Plus, I have my panel coming on after this as well. Reddit, I'm going to start with you. This man does not care about police accountability. He wants cops who beat people, who kill people. He wants to make it. He pardoned, convicted in Washington, D.C. for causing the death after chasing a black man. He pardoned them. This is who this man is. He does not care about citizens. He cares about making cops feel good. And he said in the campaign, he wants to give them 100% 100% immunity. That's what this is.
Well, he's gone further than that. If you look at his last executive order, I got it right here. Strengthening and unleashing America's law enforcement to pursue criminals and protect the innocent. He is also planning to use his Department of Justice to defend officers in cases of abused police authority. And he's advertised that as really, I think, incentive for them to disregard any of the progress that's been made in the last 10 or so years relative to police accountability. He is fulfilling his promise to his base to continue walking this country backwards in time to a place where, police immunity was a given. And I think we really need to be extremely vigilant, especially those of us who are anywhere in or around law enforcement, relative to ensuring the rights of our people being protected in the current environment that exists right now, because it's a lawless environment. As you pointed out in your opening, here's a man who's a convicted felon. Talk about cracking down on crime. Does that include rape and fraud, the things that he's been convicted of? We got some work to do.
Dante, I have said this since January 20th, really since November 5th, that if you are a civil rights attorney, you have looked to the Department of Justice, even under Republican presidents, to do their job. This civil rights division, you might as well lose their phone number, because if there's a case where a cop has beat somebody, has injured somebody, maimed someone, or killed them, this DOJ, they're not even going to answer your phone.
They're not going to answer your phone. They're not going to respond to your email. But what they may do is celebrate whatever happened to you in their boardrooms and in their offices if you're a victim of police abuse. Because remember, when he was campaigning for this presidency, he said he wanted the days to go back to where an officer, if he was dealing with somebody, taking them into custody and putting them in a patrol car, it was okay if you slapped them up against the head or bumped them up against the patrol car. He felt that there are too many restraints on law enforcement to behave decently and in respect to the Constitution, in particular, as we know, as it relates to our community. So he is a threat in chief, if you will, to the Constitution and to our own personal rights and dignity. And we have to be very vigilant and be prepared to fight back, because the DOJ is not coming to anyone's rescue at this point.
Tamika, you and others with Until Freedom, local activists, other national groups, spent a lot of time in Louisville, Kentucky, fighting for the family of Breonna Taylor, what happened to her. There were a settlement with the city that also was a part of that, where changes made to their local laws. And we saw the DOJ pursue cases against officers involved. It has to be disheartening to look at all of that work, whether it's Minneapolis, whether it's Louisville, and several other cities, and to watch this thug just wipe that away and act like federal judges did not approve these consent decrees. Act like there were no patterns and practices investigation that uncovered massive amount of abuse by cops. Tamika, I think you're on mute.
I'm sorry.
There we go.
I'm headed to the airport, and but I wanted to be on with you, Roland, and you said it properly, that it is very disheartening, extremely painful and frustrating. And today, my heart hurts for Breonna Taylor's family, for George Floyd's family, and for countless families who have lost their children, and their children have become martyrs, that we have worked so hard to use their stories as a way to get these consent decrees in the first place. And I think we have to center their voices in the midst of this as we talk about what today this letdown is. Now, you said at the beginning, Roland, when you first started, that we already knew what would happen because we watched the transition from President Obama to Donald Trump in his first presidency, and they did the same thing. William Barr, his attorney general at that time. And so we already expected this, but we always want to posture ourselves as people who know that it is wrong and that we feel it, that we know that what is happening in this moment is a sign of oppression and certainly an authoritarian government that is dangerous, and that if they could do this one thing, God only knows what will happen over the course of the next 3.5 years. And so, yes, disheartening. Now, I want to say this in case I get cut off, because I want people to know what is it that we do going forward. Number one, the consent decrees were not signed by the cities with ease. They did not get up and sign the consent decrees and say, yeah, absolutely, we're excited about having federal oversight on our police department and what's happening in our city. In fact, the people of Louisville and also people in Minneapolis fought like hell to ensure that those agreements were signed and that the federal oversight would be something that they would also play a part in. And I can tell you that the folks in Louisville, Kentucky had to fight down to the last minute to ensure that their mayor agreed to what was in the consent decree. And that means that we have to ensure that the fight goes back to the local governments, to the local police departments, and on the ground level in local cities, that we know what's in the consent decree. We have the documents. We have to make sure that our activists, our organizers, our local elected officials, our local pastors and community leaders and communities are fighting to say that we still expect that you, as a leader in this city, follow what we have all found to be extreme issues within the department, where the civil rights and human rights of our citizens, and particularly Black citizens, are being violated. And if you are a mayor or you are an elected official who stands with our communities, you will still look at these documents and ensure that we follow some of the recommendations that is included. If that does not happen, we have to make sure that we either primary or ensure that we get rid of elected officials who are in position in these cities who do not follow the will of the people. That has got to be the next course of action. And in fact, as you've been saying, Roland, and we've been talking about since Donald Trump became president, the fight is local. We did not, while we may have lost a major battle on the federal level, we can still force this work to happen on the local level and in local communities.
Chief Davis, they are closing civil rights investigations in Memphis, Phoenix, Oklahoma City, Trenton, New Jersey, Mount Vernon, New York, also against Louisiana State Police. Louisiana State Police has been rife with corruption. The case of the Black man there who they said died in a car accident, until the body cam video was released, showed he was brutally beaten by cops to death.
Ronald Green.
Ronald Green. We've had his mother on the show numerous times. And look, we know not all cops do this, but the reality is we know that on the state level, Tamika made that point, that you've had DAs and some state attorneys general who are afraid to prosecute cops because they work closely with them. So the DOJ in many ways was a backstop if they chose not to pursue. That happened in Kentucky with that coward Daniel Cameron when he was attorney general. But what this says here, Donald Trump is saying to the police, hey, don't worry about it. You can beat people. You can be racist. You can kill people. And if it goes to the federal level, I got your back. And I'm telling you right now, there's a we've been covering this case in Los Angeles, where a former deputy sheriff brutally beat a Black woman who was videotaping an encounter at a supermarket. He was convicted by the jury. Trump's U.S. attorney comes in and wants to offer a post-trial, a post-verdict deal with him that would set him free. That's what we're dealing with. And so what is Noble's perspective on what we are now seeing with this Trump administration and Department of Justice?
Well, Brother Martin, you said it, and well as Ms. Tamika as well, hit on several of those points, that we understand that the local level is where we have to put our efforts now. We understand that what's going on in D.C., what's going on in the White House, it is what it is at this point in time. And as you said at the beginning, we knew what was going to happen. And right now, we have to make sure that the people that are at the local levels, whether that the elected officials, the appointed officials, the people that live in these communities, have to hold everyone accountable for what's going on. I was actually involved with an organization with the company that was contracted to come in Louisiana and investigate the state police after Mr. Green's tragic murder. So I was involved in those things. And what we understand, and from a noble perspective, we understand that our profession, law enforcement, we literally hold the power of life and death in our hands when we go to work every day. We can take people's freedom from them every day. And with that responsibility, with that comes a lot of responsibility. And if we can't be held accountable for having such great power and such great discretion, there's something wrong. And to try to have unchecked power, that is just a disaster. And that's what's been happening historically. That's what's been going on in these communities. And we have to make sure that we have proper leadership, elected, local elected leadership. And that elected leadership puts people in place, leadership within police departments, because see, having consent decrees, that's the roadmap. And Ms. Tamika said it, even though the federal government may have backed out on enforcing those, it's out there. The roadmap is out there, the instructions are out there, and the expectations are out there. So we can still hold our organizations, our police departments, our departments and our communities accountable for what's already been laid out. It doesn't require federal oversight. That was, and we heard that people didn't, they went unwillingly, but we can still proceed with those marching orders.
Dante, consent decrees are not perfect. But here's what we do understand. What we understand is that when the DOJ comes in and they do a patterns and practice investigation, they are studying and they're talking to people. They're investigating. We're talking about reports have shown massive racism, cops using the N-word, all sorts of things. Trump is saying, we don't give a damn about none of that. Man, y'all gonna do what y'all do.
He's definitely saying that, and we as the local council, civil rights attorneys, activists, community members, community leaders, and members of law enforcement, we still have a lane. I primarily practice in federal court, holding police officers accountable for misconduct. And I join with community leaders and activists and everyday folk to bring these lawsuits and apply pressure. And you can make a city or a police department kneel to the power of the people and enter into agreements where there is reform. And you do not necessarily need the Federal Department of Justice to do that. To the extent the DOJ has already engaged in pattern and practice investigations, which was mentioned by the chief there, those are the breadcrumbs. Those are the roadmaps that we all can use to drive police departments that are in need of reform, desperate in need of reform, to reform. So we don't have to rely only upon the DOJ. We also have other tools at our disposal to use. It necessarily is going to mean we're going to have to come together to do it, but it can be done, and it's been done across this country in different cities in America.
Reddit, we talked about again. We've talked about again in terms of what our response is on the local. What do you say right now to the people? Not just the black people who voted for Trump. Because see, here's the deal. These MAGA Negroes, they're not gonna say nothing. Sharice Lane, Florida A&M grad, she ain't saying nothing. Pastor Darrell Scott in Cleveland, he ain't gonna say a damn thing. Of course, Brandon Tatum, the former cop, we know, he loves all of this. All them black MAGA folk ain't saying nothing. Joseph Pinion ain't saying nothing. But the people who I want you to speak to are these loudmouth ass black people who was on YouTube and all on social media telling black folk voting don't matter. You don't get anything for your vote. Wasting your time voting for Vice President Kamala Harris. Telling people she's worse than Donald Trump. These are the same folk who love the FBA folk, all of them. This man has said, I don't give a damn if cops kill black people. They're not going to face any penalty from me.
We had a number of them right here in St. Louis as well. And I'll be candid with you, man. I thought as intelligent as some of those people were, that they had to be ops. They had to be bought off. They had to be strategically placed. They couldn't possibly believe some of the things that they were saying. First, I would echo what I've heard from the attorneys and the brother from Noble, that now is the time to be proactive and aggressive in executing some of the strategies that have been laid out here right now, while there's still some semblance of a framework in which to execute those. This is a lawless land right now, man. You have a president who is ignoring the Constitution and the courts. He is arresting people without charges, without proof, and flying their asses out of the country. And the courts tell them to stop. And he said, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. What you going to do about it? So while that environment is present, we have to have a level of urgency. To those people, though, that you're describing, man, I don't know what their love for community and love for our people really is. But I would urge you, if you have any level of integrity, get your ass right back in front of a camera and speak to the fact that what this man is doing is directly injuring and damaging our communities in the present, and his policies that he's trying to shape and codify right now will damage the futures of our children and grandchildren going forward in the worst possible ways, reflecting the time before civil rights, when we were subject to any abuse that was available to anybody in power.
Chief, the thing that I think is important here, this is why I wanted Noble on here, because I need people to understand that Black law enforcement folk, they know the real deal. They see what's happening. In fact, and we saw what happened in Memphis. We know it's some Black cops who act like a lot of white cops. So for them, it's about blue. It's about the badge and the gun and having the power. But at the end of the day, I don't care who you are, there has to be accountability. And unfortunately, there are too many folks, too many police departments, chiefs, city council members, DAs, state attorneys generals who make excuses for the conduct of cops. It says to protect and serve. That is the people, not themselves.
Absolutely, Brother Martin. We have to make sure that we're doing right by all communities. Equitable policing is what has to happen. Noble's motto is justice by action, and we call ourselves the conscience of law enforcement, and we're responsible for holding people accountable for not doing their jobs. You know, you talk about state's attorneys, district attorney. We had a district attorney here, a state's attorney here in Cook County, Kim Fox. There was a group of white chiefs that came together to have a vote of no confidence because she was fighting for equitable policing and holding police officers accountable. That culture is so entrenched in our society that any disruption to that apple cart, anybody trying to take away that power that that institution has, is going to be met with force. Personally, we at Noble, we're faced with that because we stand up for what's right for all communities. You know, when you do what's right for everybody, you do what's right for everybody. That's how it ends up working out. But that's equitable. That's not privilege or anything else. And we have to fight to gain the ground that we're losing right now. We're losing it at a fast pace, but we cannot give up the fight. We have to make sure that we are pushing forward, that we're using the forces that we have at a local level and putting people in place who are willing to fight, because everybody that's up front ain't willing to fight. We got to have people who are unapologetic about doing what's right and doing it for the right reasons. And when we do that, as far as Noble is concerned, we are justice by action, and we are the conscience of law enforcement, and we do that unapologetically.
Lots of work to be done, and I'll say this here, next year are congressional races. Every single person running, Democrat or Republican, should be asked about this. And if there is a mobilizing effort, it needs to be happening now. And let me also say this here. To all of the Black folks, but especially the white folks and the Latinos and the Asian Americans and Native Americans, the folks who are straight, gay, who are transgender, non-binary, the folk who are Baptist, Catholic, atheist, all of y'all who 5 years ago were involved in massive protest when that video, when we saw the murder of George Floyd, where you at? 5 years later, where you're at, because we see what is going on, and we see the right has been pissed off since George Floyd's death, because massive social change was coming to this country. They are pissed off about the billions that are being allocated. They're pissed off about DEI, all those things coming in the wake of George Floyd's death. They're pissed about the books. And now you have what Donald Trump is doing. They want to erase everything that happened after May 25th, 2020. And we need folk using their power at the ballot box, city, county, state, and federal. It's time to be all in. I know Tamika to catch your flight. Let me thank all three of you, Chief Davis, Adante, Reddit, been on today's show. We're going to keep this thing focused while everybody else talking about that bullshit book on Biden, original sin, whatever. We're talking about what's happening today that's impacting our communities. Gentlemen, thanks a lot.
Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you.
Folks, going to a break. We come back. A white supremacist has the audacity to talk to a black man who lived through apartheid about racism in South Africa and how it's hurting white folk. Up next, we'll show you some of what took place in the Oval Office today between South African President Cyril Ramaphosa and, y'all know, that orange one. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
We begin tonight with the people who are really running the country right now. Now, Trump is often wrong and misleading about a lot of things, but especially about history. Donald Trump falling in line with President Elon Musk.
In the wake of the unsettling news that MSNBC has canceled Joy Ann Reid's primetime show, The Readout, Roland Martin and the Black Star Network would like to extend an invitation to all of the fans of Joy Ann Reid's MSNBC show to join us every night to watch Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming on the Black Star Network for news, discussion of the issues that matter to you, and the latest updates on the twice impeached, criminally convicted felon-in-chief Donald Trump and his unprecedented assault on democracy, as well as co-president Elon Musk's takeover of the federal government. The Black Star Network stands with Joy Ann Reid and all folks who understand the power of black voices in media. We must come together and never forget that information is power. Be sure to watch Roland Martin Unfiltered weeknights, 6 p.m. Eastern at youtube.com/Roland S. Martin or download the Black Star Network app.
Hi, I am Tommy Davidson. I play Oscar on Proud Family, Louder and Prouder. I don't play Sammy, but I could. Or I don't play Obama, but I could. I don't do Stallone, but I could do all that. And I am here with Roland Martin on Unfiltered.
The thuggish Donald Trump administration has been attacking South Africa ever since he was inaugurated. Of course, you've got South Africans standing behind him like Elon Musk, who've been encouraging that because they don't like the fact that black folks are running that particular country. And so Donald Trump has been touting the, quote, genocide against white farmers in South Africa, welcoming 59 Afrikaners, white folks, to the country. Now, mind you, these are the same people who stole the land in South Africa. White people in South Africa make up 7% of the population. They own 72% of the land. So Donald Trump has been floating these lies. Today, the president of South Africa came to the Oval Office to sit across from that white nationalist, that white supremacist. And this man, this dignified black man, had to listen to this idiot, the one who called African shithole countries, who called countries in Africa shithole countries, who trashed and lied about Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, who called for the death penalty of the 5 black and brown young men, then called the Central Park 5, now known as Exonerated 5. The same man who was accused by HUD of not renting apartments to black people. Yeah, that same person who barely has any black people in his administration. Yeah, that same one. He had to listen to this pathetic ass man lie about what's happening in his country, South Africa, because Donald Trump has no problem standing with racists and white supremacists because his administration is filled with them, people like Stephen Miller and others. Listen to this trash that happened today.
We've had tremendous complaints about Africa, about other countries too, from people. They say there's a lot of bad things going on in Africa, and that's what we're going to be discussing today. When you say we don't take others, all you have to do is take a look at the southern border. We let 21 million people come through our border, totally unchecked, totally unvetted. They came from all over the world. In many cases, they're criminals. They come from prisons. They come from mental institutions. They come from street gangs. They're drug dealers. So don't say that we didn't take them. We're trying to get them out as fast as we can. And we're doing record business on that. And we just won a big case where we're allowed to send back hundreds of criminals to Venezuela. Just won that today in the Supreme Court. I'm happy to hear. But we do have a lot of people are very concerned with regard to South Africa, and that's really the purpose of the meeting, and we'll see how that turns out. But we have many people that feel they're being persecuted, and they're coming to the United States. So we take from many locations if we feel there's persecution or genocide going on. And we had a lot of people. I must tell you, Mr. President, we have had a tremendous number of people, especially since they've seen this. Generally, they're white farmers, and they're fleeing South Africa, and it's a very sad thing to see. But I hope we can have an explanation of that, because I know you don't want that. It's a kind of a different meeting. Normally, we have meetings, we talk about trade, and we'll be talking about trade and other things. But that certainly will be a subject that comes up. Yeah. Yes, please.
Brian? Thank you very much. I'd like to get your thoughts on Letitia James. Director Polte, according to him, Letitia James says that the alleged mortgage fraud was simply a mistake. I want to get your thoughts on that. She put down that her father was her husband in order, and this is very similar to, I guess, the false attacks they had on you.
Well, I don't know what it is currently, but Letitia James, who's the Attorney General of New York State, it seemed, I'm not involved in that at all. I know that it's being handled by various groups, I guess, but it's major fraud, mortgage documents, and fraudulent everything. Yeah, I think she said the father was her husband, which she had to have a husband, or so she chose her father, and she put it down, and she had didn't she sign in Virginia, yet she said she lived in Virginia, yet she's the New York State Attorney General, and she did that for tax reasons, so she could take advantage of taxes. And she had the wrong number of units. She had a much different number, which wouldn't have allowed her to qualify and scam the government. So I don't know. I think she's very bad for New York, but I really don't know too much about it, but I appreciate the question. Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Yes,
Mr. President, what's the benefit for you to be convinced that there's no genocide?
Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. So May 25th will be the celebration of Africa Day, which pretty much a lot of celebration will be taking place around the world, including here in the United States. What is your message to the entire African continent, African people, in this important occasion?
Well, I want to see peace, and I want to see happiness. I want to see health, and you have incredible land. There's tremendous value. A lot of countries don't have that value in the land, the value you have. We have a situation, I think you probably heard about it. We've done, through some very talented people, helped settle a war that's been raging for years, Rwanda and the Congo. And I think we've done it. Believe it or not, I think we've done it. And could you just say a few words about that, my friend?
Yes. A couple of weeks ago, the two parties signed a declaration of principles in which they've agreed on the way forward. And they have both submitted draft peace agreements, and we have put together one that incorporates both of their suggestions, and we've given it to them. So we're in the process of finalizing this.
Looking good, right?
Looking very good.
We have to thank you for even those efforts, because the African continent, particularly SADC, our Southern African Development Community, has for years been seeking to foster peace in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. So all efforts, including those from outside the continent and inside the continent, are really worthwhile. We are removing our troops from there so that peace can then prevail in that whole area. And we hope that with the support of the international community, we will really have peace in that area. It's so vital, it's so important for the whole region.
Well, we sent our people there, and I think we did a very good job. I was headed by my friend, and that was great. That was great. I mean, I'm just hearing phenomenal reports because all I'm hearing is death, and they're chopping heads off, and it's horrible over there. And it was really brave of you to go there, and I really appreciate it. And it looks like we have something very, very substantial. We also talked about trade with them in terms of rare earth and all, but really more for it's like if you take a look at what we just did with Pakistan and India, we settled that whole thing, and I think I settled it through trade. We're doing a big deal with India, we're doing a big deal with Pakistan, and I said, what are you guys doing? You know, somebody had to be the last one to shoot. But the shooting was getting worse and worse, bigger and bigger, deeper and deeper into the countries. And we spoke to them, and I think I hate to say we got it settled, and then 2 days later, something happens, and they say it's Trump's fault. But Pakistan has got some excellent people and some really good, a great leader. And India is my friend, Modi. And he's a
mutual friend.
Yeah, he's a great guy. And I called them both, and we just did something good. We're trying to settle Russia, Ukraine. We spoke with President Putin for 2.5 hours the day before yesterday. I think we made a lot of progress, but that's a bloodbath. 5,000 people are being killed a week, 5,000 soldiers a week, not including people in cities and towns that are also being killed. So we're trying to help. And it doesn't affect us. It's not our people. It's not our soldiers. It's Ukraine and it's Russia. But if we can save 5,000 souls, we'll do it. We're pretty good at it. But that's a bad situation. That is a really bad situation.
Well, you'd recall when President Zelensky was coming to South Africa, that's when I spoke to you.
That's right.
We both agreed that we need to push the peace message so that there can really be peace. And we've been involved in the Ukraine-Russia conflict for quite a while through my Minister of State Security here. We've been dealing with them, the exchange of children who were taken away, going through names and addresses and all that. So we've been invested in that whole process as well. And the moves that you are making are fully supported by us because we would like to see the end of that war.
Sure. I called Zelensky, and they said, he's in South Africa. I said, what the hell is he doing in South Africa?
He was talking to us.
We got to speak. That's a strange one. I said, what are you doing in South Africa?
Yes.
That's a strange one.
He's trying to make peace. We're taking him. We were lucky because we had the great Nelson Mandela who taught us how to create peace, to make peace. So we were imparting some of those lessons to him, some of those learnings, and I specifically mentioned to him that this is how Nelson Mandela taught us that when you want to have a peace in a country, do it on an unconditional basis and sit down and talk. And that's precisely what I'm sure he's going to heed.
Well, we're going to see what happens with that one. There's a lot of hatred. There's a lot of death. It's a bloodbath.
It is.
I get
unfortunately.
I get the satellite pictures of that field, of that killing field. Mm-hmm. You never saw anything like it in your life. Yeah. It's horrible. It's a horrible thing that it goes on, but I think we've made big progress. Yeah, please, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President.
No, not you. Right here. He's from South Africa. Go ahead, please.
What are you expecting on the ICJ case? Are you expecting South Africa to drop that? Is that what you're trying to raise?
On which case?
The ICJ case against Israel,
International
Criminal Court.
I don't expect anything, to be honest. I really don't. I don't know. They've got a case. There's a lot of anger there, tremendous anger. I don't expect anything. We'll see what happens. We'll have a ruling, and who knows what the ruling is going to mean. Yeah.
On that subject of Gaza, Mr. President, are you going to be speaking to Prime Minister Netanyahu about Israel's renewed offensive there? There's been a lot of concern from European countries. The Pope has expressed concern. Are you going to be asking Prime Minister Netanyahu to tone down the offensive in Gaza, to let more aid in?
Was that a question or a statement?
It's a question.
This guy's, you never change.
Mr. President, this side, what
Please.
will it take for you to be convinced that there's no white genocide in South Africa?
Well, I can answer that for the President. It's for him.
I'd rather have him answer.
Yeah, I'd rather answer that. It will be.
My President will respond to you.
Yeah, let me.
Thank you, Mr. President.
It will take President Trump listening to the voices of South Africans, some of whom are his good friends, like those who are here. When we have talks between us on around a quiet table, it will take President Trump to listen to them. I'm not going to be repeating what I've been saying. I would say if there was Afrikaner farmer genocide, I can bet you these three gentlemen would not be here, including my Minister of Agriculture. He would not be with me. So it'll take him, President Trump, listening to their stories, to their perspective. That is the answer to your question.
But, Mr. President, I must say that we have, wait. We have thousands of stories talking about it. Sure. And we have documentaries, we have news stories. And that. Is Natalie here, somebody here to turn that? I could show you a couple of things. And it has to be responded to.
Yeah, sure.
Let me see the articles, please, if you would. And turn the lights down. Turn the lights down and just put this on. It's right behind you, Johan.
There's nothing this parliament can do. With or without you, people are going to occupy land. We require no permission from you, from the president, from no one. We don't care. We can do whatever you want to do. Who are you to tell us whether we can occupy land or not? We are going to occupy land. Yes. South Africa, occupy land. That's who we are. Honorable member, can withdraw my membership from this useless parliament.
Yes, honorable member.
Must never be scared to kill. A revolution demands that at some point there must be killing, because the killing is part of a revolutionary act. Shoot to kill. Yamaza. Kill the poor, the farmer. Kill the poor, the farmer. Pa, 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 pa. To kill. Yamaza. Kill the poor, the farmer. Kill the poor, the farmer.
The mayor of DA in PE is a white man. So these people, when you want to hit them hard, go after a white man. They feel a terrible pain because you have touched a white man. Not because Mashaba and Soli will not be touched. They will be touched, don't worry. But we are starting with this whiteness. We are cutting the throat of whiteness. It's like that.
Shoot to kill. Yamaza. Kill the poor, the farmer. Kill the poor, the farmer. Pa, pa, pa. Shoot to kill. Yamaza. Kill the poor, the farmer. Kill the poor, the farmer. Pa, 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 pa.
I'm saying you was not called for the killing of white people, at least for now. I can't guarantee the future.
Yeah, but I mean, you'd understand somebody watching that, especially as it gets shared on Twitter, they freak out. It sounds like a genocidal
Sisubatula Azobalega Sisubatula Azobalega
Who will expropriate land without compensation, whether they like it or not. If they object, they can seek refuge in America.
Now this is very bad. These are burial sites right here. Burial sites. Over 1,000 of white farmers, and those cars are lined up to pay love on a Sunday morning. Each one of those white things you see is a cross, and there's approximately 1,000 of them. They're all white farmers, the family of white farmers. And those cars aren't driving, they're stopped there to pay respects to their family member who's killed. And it's a terrible sight. I've never seen anything like it. Both sides of the road you have crosses. Those people were all killed.
Have they told you where that is, Mr. President? No, I'd like to know where that is, because this I've never seen. I don't. Okay.
I mean, it's in South Africa.
We need to find out. I don't know. I don't know. No.
Okay. Mr. President, the Pentagon announced that it would be accepting a Qatari jet to be used as Air Force One. Perhaps you are
Mr. President,
the Pentagon's vote first.
What does this have to do with the Qatari jet? They're giving the United States Air Force a jet, okay? And it's a great thing. We're talking about a lot of other things. It's NBC trying to get off the subject of what you just saw. You are a real, you're a terrible reporter. Number one, you don't have what it takes to be a reporter. You're not smart enough. But for you to go into a subject about a jet that was given to the United States Air Force, which is a very nice thing, they also gave $5.1 trillion worth of investment in addition to the jet. Go back, you ought to go back to your studio at NBC, because Brian Roberts and the people that run that place, they ought to be investigated. They are so terrible the way you run that network, and you're a disgrace. No more questions from me. Go ahead. Go ahead, talk about that.
please may we have a South African
His name is
question,
Peter
Mr.
something.
President
He's
Trump?
a terrible
If they're
reporter.
committing genocide, why invite them to the White House? I'll be quiet. Sure, that's my question now.
Let's go.
Thank you so much, President Trump. Annika Larson from ENCA in South Africa. Thank you very much
Thank
for
you very
hosting
much.
us. What would you like President Ramaphosa to do about the situation
I don't
we've just
know.
seen on the screen?
I don't know. Look, these are articles over the last few days. Death of people. Death. Horrible death. Death. I don't know.
But you know that there are
Pick
black
anyone.
people who are
White
dying
South
the most.
Africans are fleeing because of the violence and racist laws. And this is all. I mean, I'll give these to you. So when you say what would I like to do, I don't know what to do. Look at this. White South African couple say that they were attacked violently.
President Trump, when will you go and see for yourself if it is?
Well, I can do that. Look, here's burial sites all over the place. These are all white farmers that are being buried.
President Trump.
And he asks about a jet that was given.
My first question
You
is
ought to
about
be
Africa.
ashamed.
We're not interested in the
You are so bad. You're such a bad reporter.
If they're committing genocide, why invite them? Sir, if they are committing genocide, why invite the South Africans to the White House?
May I finish, please, President Trump? Mr. President
This
Trump,
is
may I
one
finish?
after another. This family was wiped out. I'm just looking.
Can we get a report from President
Can you give us
Ramaphosa,
your
please?
reaction to those videos, Mr.
President Trump, could you?
Well, I think the videos are so.
No.
No, when you look at the videos, I mean, how does it get worse? And these are people that are officials, and they're saying that kill the white farmer and take their land. That's what it is. And I have other friends in South Africa. I have people that left. One in particular that says you can't go there. He said they want to take your land. They take your land and they kill you. It's okay, and they say it's okay to do. Now we're going to talk about it. But this is a tremendous look. This is a story recent. These are all people that recently got killed.
Yeah.
And I don't know how it can get any worse. These are and you know, the men that you saw, the people that you saw in that movie, those are officials. Those are people that were in office. They had one march. They had a dance in your parliament, whatever you may call it, legislature.
Let me clarify that.
Yeah.
Let me clarify that, because what you saw, the speeches that were being made, one, that is not government policy. We have a multi-party democracy in South Africa that allows people to express themselves, political parties to adhere to various policies, and in many cases, or in some cases, those policies do not go along with government policy. Our government policy is completely against what he was saying, even in the parliament. And they're a small minority party, which is allowed to exist in terms of our constitution.
But you do allow them to take land.
No.
You do allow them to take land.
Nobody can take land.
And then when they take the land, they kill the white farmer. And when they kill the white farmer, nothing happens to them.
No, there is
nothing happens to them.
There is criminality in our country. People who do get killed, unfortunately, through criminal activity, are not only white people. Majority of them are black people. And we have now
The farmers aren't black. The farmers are not black. I don't say that's good or bad, but the farmers are not black. And the people that are being killed in large numbers, and you saw all those grave sites, and those are people that loved ones going, I guess on a Sunday morning, they told me, to pay respect to their loved ones that were killed. Their heads chopped off. They died violently. And, you know, I mean, we're here to talk about it, and I didn't know we'd get involved here. But I will say this, that if the news wasn't fake, like NBC, which is fake news, totally, one of the worst, ABC, NBC, CBS, horrible. But if they weren't fake news like this jerk that we have here, if we had real reporters, they'd be covering it. But the fake news in this country doesn't talk about that. They don't want to talk about it, but now they have to talk about it. But they won't. This won't even be a subject. They'll have him talking about why did a country give a free, think of this, why did a country give an airplane to the United States Air Force? Okay, the United States, not to me, to the United States Air Force, so they could help us out, because we need an Air Force One until that's Air Force One, it's being built. 2 of them being built. But Boeing's a little bit late, unfortunately. So why did they give us a plane to the United States Air Force? That's what that idiot talks about after viewing a thing where thousands of people are dead.
I'm sorry, I don't have a plane to give you.
I wish you did. I'd take it. I would take it. If your country offered the United States Air Force a plane, I would take it.
Okay. But coming back to this issue, which I really would like us to talk about, and talk about it very calmly. We were taught by Nelson Mandela that whenever there are problems, people need to sit down around a table and talk about them.
Well, there are
and
problems.
this is precisely what we would also like to talk about, including, of course, trade matters, investment matters. So the issues that concern you as the United States.
Those are all recent.
And
those are all deaths.
Yeah, in many ways, I mean, one should say you are a partner of South Africa, and you are raising concerns, and these are concerns that we are willing to talk to you about. Let me just add quickly, you know, the criminality that we are experiencing in our country needs quite a lot of technological capability. And in one of our areas in South Africa, we're using US technology, which is able to in many ways identify where shootings are happening and all that. And I'd like to talk about that because there is support that we can get from you as the United States to help us deal with all these acts of criminality. And that is what I believe partnership is all about. And we are here as a partner so that we can help each other whenever there are challenges. So I'd like us to discuss it, and of course outside of the media, so that we sit down and have a really good discussion that will lead to good outcomes.
Folks, my pound, Dr. Larry J. Walker, Associate Professor, University of Central Florida, out of Orlando. Rebecca Carruthers, Executive Vice President, Fair Election Center, out of Washington, D.C. Derek Jackson, State Representative, Georgia District 68, out of Alabama. It was, the folks understand, it was painful to have to watch this entire conversation. It was more than an hour. We actually streamed it on the Black Star Network. It was hard to watch a black man have to sit there and listen to lies. President Ramaphosa, he had to remain dignified. He could not respond, even how Zelensky responded. Because you see, countries like South Africa, America uses its money to force them to do their bidding. There's foreign aid they receive. There's money that they receive. These are the things that they do. And so, having to listen to this shameful, despicable man, just, they tell me, well, who the hell is they? Who's they? You literally had white South Africans in the room saying, no, that ain't true. But this idiot believes whoever he talked to last, that's who he believes. And see, this right here is why I will never call him president. Because he is a disgrace to the office. He is a stain on the world. He is an orange stain. He is a brown streak in white shorts to the world. And he sat there and just constantly lied. President South Africa, talk about trade, talk about security. And to make matters worse, to constantly go back to criminality, and not want to deal with the history of that country. But the reason why it's even more so shameful with what happened, because that was a white man who sat in that same office and who vetoed a bill that sanctioned the racists in South Africa. He vetoed it because he stood with the racist government, and that was Ronald Reagan. But see, that's when you had a different Republican Party. Because Republicans and Democrats overrode Reagan's veto that led to sanctions against South Africa, that racist apartheid regime. Donald Trump absolutely is in the Reagan camp. He stands up for white people in South Africa. He doesn't give a damn about black South Africans. That's really, Rebecca, that was the thing for me, just having, here is Ramaphosa trying to remain composed and calm and listening to this man, knowing full well, I think he wanted to reach over and choke the shit out of him for just lying on his country.
I mean, if I was President Ramaphosa, I would have had a hard time keeping my composure, knowing that this is a buffoon clown and probably a soiled diaper trying to tell me the history of my country when I have lived it. Quite frankly, you know, I'm very happy that I had the experience to study abroad in South Africa through Howard University School of Law about 10 years after apartheid. And just watching that country having to rebuild, knowing economically there's still parts of it that's still tied to white supremacy, it was very hard to listen to the current resident of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue spew constant lies that aren't true, that are factually inaccurate. But, you know, God willing, President Ramaphosa will be here years much later after Trump has departed.
Again, you know, when we sit here and have to just watch this crap and deal with this idiot, really is pathetic. And I just, I was so angry having to watch that. And guys, do me a favor. We were live streaming the news conference of the president, Ramaphosa, his post news conference. It looked like it just ended. Cue that up so I can take some of that. I wish someone told me that they were actually live. So it looks like the feed just ended. But the thing for me, Larry, it was shameful. And you know what he wanted to say. There were stories that were reported where he talked about what he was going to say, but he knew in that moment. And all these people talk about, oh, he was ambushed and he didn't know. No, he knew what he was walking into. He did. Hell, I said last night to Jahan LeBlanc what was going to happen. So we knew what was going to happen, but he had to remain calm and dignified when sitting across from an absolute idiot.
You know, Roland, you know, when we often think about, you know, world leaders and people in positions of power, there are times in which you have to bite your tongue. And you know, in this case, he certainly spent, you know, most of his time in the White House doing just that, because he knows he has the lives of millions of South Africans in his hand. And you know, you're right, Roland, in terms of someone who had to live under, you know, apartheid, de jure segregation, to endure what he had to endure today in the White House. And I want to go back to a point you made earlier about Ronald Reagan. We have to remember there was the CDC and people like Randall Robinson and others that helped end apartheid in South Africa and also helped free Nelson Mandela. And years later, you know, post Obama and Biden, et cetera, we now, you know, in terms of Americans, have to be exposed to a lot of really crazy conspiracy theories. And listen, the United States has the most complete, you know, apparatus in the world as it creates in terms of collecting data and information. And he's printing out stuff from, like, you know, off the internet. He's got copies, printouts in his hand. When once again, he has access to all kinds of information about what's going on in every country in the world. And this speaks to this idea of, like, the difference between what, you know, a society moving forward, a multiracial, multi-ethnic society moving forward, and what we saw today in the White House, which is also reinforces the idea that people of African descent aren't seen as human, that we're seen as less than. When you are talking about white Afrikaners, and we know there were a few dozen that came to the United States just a week or two ago, and not talking about the fact that that land was taken from, you know, black South Afrikaners. And then once again, that land is still owned post-apartheid. That land is still owned by white Afrikaners. And so once again, the power dynamic in terms of land ownership, which we know in any country is the primary thing which is primarily important, is still unbalanced. And once again, you have the president of South Africa being forced and humiliated in many respects to listen to a lot of these conspiracy theories, which have been disproven, and you know, forced to kind of endure that. And once again, as you said, as a black man who had to endure apartheid and who has risen to this position of power, to be forced to listen to this in the White House.
Derek, again, this is the crap that we have to deal with the fool who's sitting in the Oval Office.
Yeah, you're right, Roland. And I do appreciate that you played the full interview. This is my third time watching it. But the reason why I appreciate you playing it is because your listeners, your audience need to know how this guy is, right? The video is on, the microphone is hot, and we continue to watch this individual that's occupying the Oval Office continue to proliferate false, misleading, claims and lies in the Oval Office, over 30,000 lies. And I appreciate President Ramaphosa fact-checking him in real time, saying, tell me where this is, because this doesn't look familiar. See, that we know if something is happening in Georgia and they say, hey, this is happening in Atlanta, I know Atlanta. If somebody say this is happening in Atlanta, I'm gonna ask, well, where in Atlanta? Because it doesn't look like Atlanta. We gotta understand, Roland, that the individuals that's behind this thing about genocide is David Duke, Carson Tucker, Elon Musk, Stephen Miller. If you understand those four, they're proliferating this, and they were prepared to put this because they had a television already in there. He said, dim lights, roll the tape. And so we now need world leaders, when they go in that Oval Office, they need to be blunt with him. Because if you continue to play nice with a bully and you don't punch back with a bully, they're going to continue to do the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when he just flat out lied about Canada, and the prime minister's sitting right there. And again, he was trying to be nice about it when he corrected him. In that particular video that was shown, there was a video of Julius Malema. And he sent this tweet out after he said, a group of older men meet in Washington to gossip about me. No significant amount of intelligence evidence has been produced about white genocide. We will not agree to compromise our political principles on land expropriation without compensation for political expediency. What we saw, Rebecca, in that Oval Office, we saw the Minister of Agriculture talk about what is happening there. Then you had the richest man in South Africa, the white guy, Johan, say, no, that's not genocide. And so, again, Trump is a liar. And what people don't also understand is they handpicked the media that was there as well. So understand the type of questions you were getting. A lot of the people from the United States were these crazy-ass right-wingers who kiss his butt every day.
The other thing that's disturbing...
Who also mainly work for white nationalist organizations.
Absolutely. The thing that's especially dangerous here is when you have the use of technology like AI that's being used like this, like with Grok, that pushed out last week. It didn't matter what you were looking up last week. It kept connecting to this insidious lie that's not happening.
And the same Grok, when asked, said that it had been changed for his own Grok told Elon's Grok told on itself.
Yeah, Grok is performing like a child. When you tell a child the lie, the child's going to tell you the lie and say, hey, guess who told me the lie? And so the Grok is letting us know that Elon Musk and other white supremacists have fed this lie because they're trying to feed this into the internet. So then when you do searching on what's happening in South Africa, all of a sudden you have these AI lies that have been generated, have been force-fed. Like what's happening is an erasure that's happening. Just like we talk about the erasure that's happening in this country under the Trump administration, we're seeing the same thing that's happening in South Africa. But what's making it especially harmful is that when you add the advent of Starlink and the other technologies that Elon Musk is holding sub-Saharan hostage over its usage, now we're going to start to see extortion for people to actually feed in and buy into the lies.
The economic freedom fighters, Larry, released this statement here on social media. They said the economic freedom fighters has taken note of the press briefing held jointly by the president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, and they say the president of the United States, Donald Trump. The meeting, which came under the pretext of discussing diplomatic, trade, and economic relations, ended up being a discussion about the president and commander-in-chief of the EFF, Julius Malema, and his correct and principled position regarding the return of the land to African people and the return of the means of production into the hands of the African majority. And what comes as no surprise, Cyril Ramaphosa and his delegation, which was constituted by the likes of Stellenbosch racist billionaire Johan Rupert, Donald Trump's golfing buddy Ernie Els, and the Minister of Agriculture and leader of the racist Democratic Alliance, John Steenhuisen, was an interaction dominated by white privileged men who've amassed wealth at the expense of African people, who spent a majority of the time expressing their hatred of the EFF and of its leader, Julius Malema. Trump proceeded to play numerous clips of the president of the EFF wherein our leader spoke correctly about the unequal distribution of land in South Africa and sang the chant, "Kill the Boer, kill the farmer," which is a song that expresses the desire to destroy the system of white minority control over the resources of South Africa. This liberation chant was considered as part of African heritage by the Equality Court, which also, which also said the song could not be interpreted literally. The Supreme Court of Appeal and the Constitutional Court of South Africa then ratified this decision. In an act of cowardice, Cyril Ramaphosa blatantly denounced the rulings of the courts of the country he is a president of, and this was then followed by insults from John Steenhuisen, who then confirmed that they reached a pact with the African National Congress to keep the EFF out of power. This pact was a clear collusion to prevent genuine transformation in South Africa. Additionally, the meeting between Ramaphosa and Trump has led to the inadvertent confirmation of the consolidation of the 2024 alliance between white minority capital and the neoliberal and counter-revolutionary ANC. Johann Rupert then followed, identifying the CIC Julius Malema as his enemy for over 10 years, and then citing their relationship since Julius Malema's days in the once vibrant ANC Youth League. The true intentions of the meeting were then revealed as Rupert went on to lobby for the allowing of Elon Musk's Starlink to operate in South Africa. The dominance of white male voices in the entire interaction proves and vindicates the EFF. The delegation was one that sought to make assurances to Trump that the transformation agenda of South Africa is one that can be compromised upon negotiation. All the utterances by Ramaphosa's delegation point to a devious plot to rekindle relations with a maniacal Trump administration by sacrificing our sovereignty at the altar of convenience. The South African delegation was at pains to explain how they have no interest in redressing the unequal patterns of land ownership in South Africa using what is now constitutionally provisioned as nil compensation through the Expropriation Act. The entire delegation failed dismally at countering the false narrative of a white genocide. Now, that is the statement that they released, first of all, genocide in South Africa, by contrasting the narrative through evidence-based statistics and data around crime in our country that affects all South Africans. South Africa has been embarrassed by a delegation that was contradicting itself, that abandoned judicial decisions, and at times was simply groveling and lying. The EFF is proud that its legislative and political agenda led by the President and Commander-in-Chief, Julius Malema, has shaken the quarters of imperialism in Washington. Our Commander-in-Chief can be considered in the lines of great revolutionaries, as Donald Trump, in his illiterate rants, has called for his arrest for daring to call for land expropriation without compensation. As a result, the EFF is concerned by this call that something must be done to stop the EFF president from chanting a liberation heritage song. Therefore, the EFF will continue to keenly follow the developments in Washington and reiterates that we will oppose any compromising of our laws to allow for Starlink to operate in South Africa, and we will oppose any reversal or transformation legislation, including that which will allow for expropriation of land. We will defend our constitutional democracy, never bow and succumb to imperialism. All those opposed to the dominance of the few by the many must never fear and must chant loudly against the system of oppression. Abulu, kill the boer, kill the farmer, victory is certain, issued by the economic freedom fighters. What we're dealing with, Larry, we're dealing with, as President Ramaphosa said to Trump, we have multiple parties. This is not America where you got Democrat and Republican. The reality is that there's been a lot of people in South Africa, a lot of black folks, who have not been happy with the ANC. One of the reasons the ANC had to form this coalition is because they lost the dominance there. In successive presidents, people have complained about corruption, they complain about high unemployment and crime. Black folks have been demanding change. And so what you're dealing with is a white man in Donald Trump. We know their statement is right, absolutely illiterate. I love when they sat here and said, as Donald Trump in his illiterate rants, that's what he was, illiterate. For him to tell Ramaphosa, you just can't arrest this man, that tells you right here, he don't give a damn about freedom of speech in the United States.
No, and we are, with previous conversation, you talked about, rescinding a lot of these orders in states in terms of these consent decrees. So listen, Roland, in South Africa, in these conversations, look, this is all about maintaining a racial caste system. And that is the bottom line. And obviously, you talked about Elon Musk. This is all about him gaining more power and a stronger foothold in not only countries and throughout the continent of Africa, but throughout various other countries. And so, listen, the president playing a video and once again printing out these articles from who knows where, it's all misinformation. None of it's based on any fact. There's no white genocide in South Africa. And once again, I find that your point in terms of land distribution, and we know that post-apartheid you had this racial conciliation events in terms of trying to kind of find a middle ground for white Afrikaners and black South Africans. But the fact of the matter is, you can't have fairness and justice if one group controls the land. And so, once again, whether you talk about here in the United States, my ancestors not getting that 40 acres and a mule, or in South Africa, when we talked about more than 70% of the land is controlled by white South Afrikaners who make up less than 10% of the population. This statement, and I give them a lot of credit for providing a lot of context, is really important. Even when you talked about the song, Americans have no context for what the song really means. And then I'm glad they talked about in the press release what the song means, and that they obviously talked about this necessarily no violent connotations to it. But Americans, particularly white Americans, have no context about what has happened in South Africa. And in terms of, once again, you talk about the ANC, in terms of making sure Black South Africans can live have a quality of life, and also we make sure that that land that belonged to them decades ago goes back to the people. You cannot have justice if you don't have the land that your ancestors spent years before those white Africans, South Africans came to the country, existed, built homes, and etc. So once again, this is the basis for maintaining a racial caste system in South Africa. The United States is applying political pressure to the South African government. And this, White House meeting was nothing but a ploy to play a bunch of misinformation, get it out there in the internet and people watching it over and over thousands, maybe millions of times to reinforce this idea that genocide is happening in South Africa. But the statement you just read provides, like I said, the context that is a lie, and that Americans, particularly Black folks, cannot fall for the okie doke.
There was a news conference, we live streamed it on the Black Star Network, where President Ramaphosa talked about this that joke of a meeting in the Oval Office. Of course, they had meetings afterwards. So here's some of that news conference.
Political collaboration on geopolitical matters. Yes, we found that our interests do coincide in as far as peace building and peacemaking is concerned. And we did compliment President Trump in being very forward in advocating for peace in our region between Rwanda and the DRC, and also Russia and Ukraine. And we outlined precisely what our involvement has been over the years. Speaks to both. We were condemned at an early stage, but I think much later people realized that the role that we play is a constructive role, because we have been able to deal with intricate issues that involve the two countries, about the children and prisoners of war, and he appreciated that, and he recognized the role that we play. And even as President Zelensky came to South Africa, he says he wanted to know where Zelensky was, and he heard that, oh, he's in South Africa. And before then, I had called,
All right, folks, that is, I don't know why the feed it keeps buffering, but bottom line is, if you want to see that full news conference, just go to our YouTube channel. You can actually see it. We live stream the full news conference. What we're dealing with here, Derek, is simple. There are white folks who don't want Black people to be economically free. The reality is, and there are a lot of people who, even now, they still criticize Nelson Mandela because when he became president, obviously, his job is to keep this country together, but he did not move forward with an aggressive plan to confront the economic calamity or the distance between black folks and white folks there. And many people have talked about that, looking back, saying that was one of his biggest mistakes, that the radical freedom fighter became so moderate that at the end of the day, sure, it's great that you had a black president. It's great that the ANC then controlled the government. But as anybody knows, if you don't control the money, you actually do not have power.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Roland. And what we're watching, actually, to your point, we're seeing the restructuring of a new world order. I think, you know, we're on a path to see a different kind of world. Our NATO allies are restructuring how they deal with the United States, Canada, France, UK. I mean, all these world leaders are watching this individual, how he deals with certain heads of state. And so they're having their private conversation and saying, we're going to circumnavigate the United States because we're not going to be part of the United States agenda. The second point is this, and you stated in the opening, this was unexpected. Project 2025 was very clear. He said that they're going to deport, detain 20 million citizens. They did not use the word migrants, immigrants. They said citizens. That includes all of us. They want to take 20 million of us, send them to El Salvador, Zimbabwe, Venezuela, wherever, and then import who they want to bring in. And so we're watching this new world order. The third part is this, Roland, what are we going to do? We're going to keep coming back to that, because if we don't do something, life as we know it 5 or 10 years ago is going to be very different, because our NATO allies and heads of state are not going to tolerate this kind of foolishness when somebody is going to berate them publicly, lie on their country, and expect that for them not to do anything.
Rebecca, I go back to, you got to deal with the money. I remember when I interviewed Winnie Mandela, and we talked about what was happening in the country. And one of the things that she said in that interview, and the only reason people could see the interview because there were white execs at CNN that refused to run the interview because I did not ask her about the trial that she had went on. I said, well, I wanted to ask her what the hell I wanted to ask her. And they never ran the interview. And I went to the president of CNN US joke with him and said, hey, give me the interview. I run on my TV One show. That's the only reason people could see that interview, because that happened. So when I interviewed her, what she said was, she said, you have to understand, a high illiteracy rate in South Africa was the result of young boys and girls who were literally in the streets fighting. So from the time they came of age, 4 and 5 and 6 and 7, until they became adults, they were fighting racist apartheid. So that's one of the reasons why. So when you look at this nation for African Americans, and high unemployment rate, lack of economic opportunities, massive lack of housing, it literally is a grand contradiction when you look at the housing in black South Africa compared to white South Africa. It's no different. Hell, if you go to St. Thomas, and if you go look at St. Thomas, St. Croix, but then you go look at, I think it's St. John or St. James. That's where the white folks are. You can tell how the money changes based upon the roads, the houses, the lawns, all those things. And so South Africa is dealing with, that's what they're still dealing with. That is decades upon decades of black folks fighting for their freedom, not going to school, not building businesses. And here we are almost 3 decades after electing a black president, and they still are trying to gain economic footing, and land is a part of this. And a lot of these white folks, they do not want to give that land up because that is family riches.
So, Roland, I'm going to try to answer this, but I also know we have only a short period of time. I'm going to use
no, I can skip other topics. We got 32 minutes, so if I want to stay on this, I can. Go ahead.
Okay, so
this ain't them other shows where no. Go ahead, make your point. Don't worry about it.
So we can get to the historical context and how the United States, as big brother, is responsible for what's happening in present-day South Africa. So I know last week Westmore didn't want to use the R word, reparations, but we're going to have to talk about this in this situation. So for the historical context, about 100 years ago, when we start looking at what the white Afrikaners did in South Africa, specifically, they studied what happened in post-Reconstruction Jim Crow in the South. They took the notes of what was happening in the United States in the 1870s and the 1880s, and they decided, hey, we're going to do this even better. So what they did, they came over to the United States, they learned, they went back over to South Africa in the early 1900s. They started to routinely strip away land from black folks in South Africa. So to provide context to what was happening in the United States at this time, when we think of 1919, when we had the Red Summers, where dozens and dozens of black cities, black towns, black economic engines were burned down by white nationalists in this country. The same thing was happening in South Africa, where you now had the white Afrikaner government decided they were going to break South Africa into different homelands. So basically in individual states. And they required that you had to have a passport to go from one state to another state in South Africa. As they were doing this, they were literally raping, they were murdering, they were burning down villages in the countryside as well as farmland. They literally took the farmland, stripped it from the black folks, and gave it to the white Afrikaners, primarily Dutch immigrants who came to South Africa a couple of centuries before. Once they did that and they started to jail dissidents, those who disagreed with what was happening in the South African government, once that happened, there was a huge land shift. And as we know, land really can't be created. Regardless of what's happening in Dubai, you really can't create land at that level. So the riches in South Africa was attached to the land. And that's before you even get to the mineral rights. So now when you fast forward to what was happening in the United States with the fight for liberation through the civil rights movement, you start to see a parallel happening in sub-Saharan Africa. So once you got to South Africa and you started to see Mandela, when you started to see Nelson Mandela join freedom fighters, and they started to fight for revolutionary and liberation rights in South Africa. He got jailed. All those things happened. While he was on Robben's Island, where he was incarcerated, you start to see they started to plot for the future of South Africa. They started to actually build the new constitution of what a liberated black South Africa looks like. So now you fast forward to the mid-90s, once apartheid falls in South Africa, all of a sudden, instead of having Mandela, we got Nelson Mandela. I think that's very important because the freedom fighter was Mandela. It wasn't Nelson Mandela. So like what Roland said, you start to see more of a moderation. So then we fast forward to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. The purpose of that commission was to give white Afrikaners immunity if they came forward and talked about all the bad things that they did under apartheid. There was no justice in this. There was no reparations in this. There was no restoration of family lands back to black South Africans. Instead, white folks just got up and said, oh, these are all the bad things that we did. Okay, now we're absolved. The issue with that is when you have almost a century of economic harm and there isn't economic reparations that are happening after almost a century of economic harm, is that now you have a poverty that is frozen into time, which is why now 3 decades later, you still have the same abject poverty in South Africa. So I had the experience of studying abroad in Cape Town at what was at HBCU under apartheid, University of the Western Cape. And my constitutional law professor happened to be Justice Yaqub, who was on the Constitutional Court. During apartheid, he's one of those with Nelson Mandela, helped architect the new South Africa constitution, which was meant to be aspirational. It wasn't meant to be, hey, this is where we are as a nation. The issue that happened is by by them not addressing the economic harms that occurred and coming up with economic reparations, is now you still have a huge gap between those who have and those who haven't, and it's largely based upon race. White Afrikaners are extremely wealthy. When you go to Cape Town, when you go to Durban, when you go to Joburg, to Johannesburg, when you look at where the money is consolidated, it's based upon white supremacy. Even though you have the class of honorary white people, which are people who are from India, and then you have the next part of the caste system, the coloreds, and then you have the black folks, you still see the coloreds, which would be, you still see the coloreds, which would be like singer, I think her name Tyla, she would be considered a color, which is why when she was on the Breakfast Club and she was asked if she was black, she struggled with that question because in South Africa, she is viewed as colored. Or you look at the comedian Trevor Noah, he would be considered colored. So the issue that's happening in South Africa is that century of economic harm has never been addressed. Until it's addressed, there's going to be continual and perpetual poverty of black South Africans.
Something happened before this meeting today, and South Africa, President Ramaphosa, anyone with the embassy here, Bloomberg is reporting you are making a decision, and I implore you not to do this. And again, what have y'all always heard me say on this show? If you want to understand America, follow the money. If you're not having a money conversation, you're not having an American conversation. So Bloomberg reported this right here. South Africa to offer Musk Starlink deal before Trump meet. I am hoping they did not do this. This is what the story says. And there's a lesson here, because you talked about, Rebecca, what has happened with black people here. This should not happen. South Africa's government plans to offer Elon Musk a workaround of local black ownership laws for his Starlink service to operate in the country. Okay? Here's the whole piece. It says, news regarding the Starlink workaround regarding black ownership laws for Elon Musk provide internet services in South Africa have boosted investor optimism regarding a favorable outcome resulting from the upcoming Ramaphosa-Trump meeting. The alternative to so-called black economic empowerment laws that in some cases require 30% black ownership is not specific to Starlink and Musk. It will be applied to all information and communication technology companies, including those from China and the Middle East. A so-called equity equivalent option would instead involve investments in infrastructure or training, or providing Starlink kits to rural areas in order to improve internet access. The auto industry in 2019 signed up for a similar workaround that involved the largest car manufacturers, including BMW AG, Ford Motor Company, and Toyota Motor Company, setting up a fund to invest in bringing disenfranchised groups into the sector. South Africa introduced BEE rules after the end of apartheid, during which black people were subjugated and excluded from the formal economy by the ruling white minority. Today, white people earn on average 5 times what black citizens do according to official statistics and own the vast majority of farmland despite making up 7% of the population. South Africa, do not do this. Do not do this deal. Now, I know somebody watching me going, dude, I don't understand, like, what's the problem with this deal? Now, according to another story, this is my problem with it. This story here says, under the equity equivalent model, companies like Starlink would invest in infrastructure development, skill training, or providing internet services to disadvantaged communities. South Africa, listen to me clearly. You're giving away the path to economic freedom for black South Africans. I dare say this is how, in the United States, we got front companies that took advantage of MWBE programs and white women were benefiting. And then white women were setting up companies that white men controlled. Or they went out and got a black face, but the white person was still making all the money. The issue we're dealing with here, and I totally understand it, there are infrastructure issues. There are issues in rural America. But South Africa, listen to me clearly. People in the United States in rural areas don't have internet service. Donald Trump is trying to pull back and peel back the billions that President Joe Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris signed into law, giving internet service to rural America. Why? Because Elon Musk wants to get the contract. This deal is a ruse. There are other examples of, oh, we're going to give you free internet or give you free equipment, then they start charging. South Africa cannot ease the 30% because black people, this will become a majority black nation, demographic-wise, that will never, ever get out of the hole of poverty. Derek, you're there in Georgia. I need South Africans, please, please, President Ramaphosa, please, ANC leaders, I need y'all to not do this. Go and sit and talk to people in Atlanta. Read Robert Jackson's book on Maynard Jackson. When Maynard Jackson said, I will let tumbleweeds roll down the runways of the airport before I allow it to be expanded without black participation. Atlanta, black people in Atlanta were getting 0.0012% of all city contracts in 1972. 1973, sworn in, begin to make changes. Banks would not put black people on their boards of directors. Maynard Jackson said, city treasurer, pull our money out of their banks. Within 2 weeks, they found black folks on their board. At city contracts, county contracts in Fulton County, airport contracts were because they had strict set-asides in there because they understood in Atlanta, you cannot be able to build wealth if you do not have access to the dollars. And what will happen here is Elon Musk will send out some free equipment. But what is the purpose of being able to have internet with free equipment from Starlink if I never will have an opportunity to own a business? President Ramaphosa and ANC, y'all cannot pull back on the 30% requirement. The numbers are the numbers. They're still going to own 70%. But if you do this, they will own 100%. And you will get crumbs. And a generation from now, like the generation today, is having to live with the deal Nelson Mandela cut. Don't be in a situation where 30 years from now, that generation is looking at the deal Ramaphosa cut in order to satisfy Donald Trump. Do not do this deal because it will be economically harmful to black South Africans. Derek?
Yeah, Roland, I definitely agree with you. They should take the Maynard Jackson approach. But let's look at the reality, Roland. This guy is transactional. In fact, he's so transactional, Roland, in the first 100 days of this administration, he has amassed $6 billion. Think about that for a second. We talk conflict of interest is he done blown that through the roof. I mean, the deals that continue to be outlined, and so when that whole $400 million jumbo jet Qatar deal, I wasn't surprised because while he was over in the Middle East, Roland, he was making deals.
He made a deal for a hotel. He made a deal for a golf course. And so Elon Musk is still part of this equation. They keep saying that Elon Musk is no longer in politics. Well, where was he today, Roland? He was right there. Why? Because he won that Starlink in South Africa. But that's the sad part, that I believe President Ramaphosa is going to make the deal. And unfortunately, to your point, 10, 20, 30 years from now, they're going to look back at this time, and the deal that was made is going to hurt South Africa.
Larry, I'm telling you, Larry, you cannot make deals with this thug, and all Elon Musk wants to do is screw South Africa, the black folks. South Africa should do what Gambia is doing, and we had the ProPublica reporter on last week, how they've been trying everything to break Gambia, and Gambia's like, nope, we are not granting him a license to operate in Gambia. President Ramaphosa must remain strong. They cannot sign this deal.
You know, Roland, this is I talked earlier about, leadership. And, what we're seeing here with this White House, and particularly Elon Musk, the last couple of weeks, trying to exploit African nations, exploit the countries, exploit their wealth, and we can't allow it. And, Roland, this is really important when we talk about in terms of the diaspora, the importance of Pan-Africanism. We have to collectively, as people of the diaspora, to make sure we come together to protect countries like South Africa and prevent this, what we're seeing, what you described in terms of Starlink, Elon Musk, because once again, this really comes down to wealth. And I mentioned earlier, maintaining a racial caste system. So we can't allow those individuals who are in power now, as you highlighted, to make deals that will impact people generations from now. And I get the pressures from leadership, but when the majority of the wealth in the country is still owned by people who are not native to that land, you can never expect peace or justice. And so, as you said, caving in and allowing, these vulture capitalists basically to come in South Africa and other African nations and to pillage basically, once again, what you've already experienced for hundreds of years in Africa and other, countries outside of the country, then once again, you cannot reverse the centuries of damage from capitalism, imperialism that people of African descent, other people from minoritized backgrounds throughout the world has experienced. It is now the time to take a stand. And as you said, if you take this deal, then you will not be able to reverse the centuries of damage, decades of damage you experienced, the Black Afrikaners have experienced in the nation. And once again, you continue to the cycle of poverty in a country in which Black folks deserve to live a peaceful life where they have access to resources. But right now, we're not there yet.
Rebecca, final point on this. I get it. I get the desire for investment. I get the need for investment in your country. Africa is 7 of the top 10 economies, fastest growing economies, 7 of those in African nations. The continent of Africa is the youngest population. It needs resources, not philanthropy. But what they cannot do is allow colonialism 2.0. Colonialism 2.0 to me is you're free, meaning you could elect possibly who you want, but then who controls them? And if you control the money, if you control the banks, the ports, the land, the investment, you control all of that, you control the country. You remain poor. And so that 30%, it's 30%. It's not 70% local ownership, 30% foreign, which what it should be. It's, you still gonna own 70. We're requiring 30% of South African investment. That needs to remain. Otherwise, Black folks in South Africa will never, ever achieve any economic success.
You know, there's different options that South Africa has, especially with forming coalitions with the BRICS countries. Figure out a deal with China. Like right now, China is very transactional. Is China necessarily being a imperialist? Not necessarily, but it's willing to make a deal and make money. South Africa has so many resources. I don't know if it's necessarily even for the South African government to nationalize its mines. I don't know, but I definitely think that South Africa needs to bet on itself. Because that's the future of South Africa.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the current predicament that South Africa is going to be there for the next 100 years.
Yeah, you give it away right now.
That's it.
You can't get it back unless you put caps, unless you say 5-year agreement or whatever. But if you don't have those caps, they're going to look up and foreign companies are going to be making billions off of the country and the people. And what are you getting? Training? You're getting investments in roads, infrastructure? Nah, don't do that deal. Because black folks, we know what that deal looks like post the civil rights movement and how there's been nominal success, but not full economic freedom. Folks, going to go to a break. Come back, more Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network, including talking with a black business owner. It's a part of our shopblackstarnetwork.com initiative. Boy, it's a whole lot been going on. Be sure to do this, though. Support us. Listen, the conversation we just had here, whether we're talking about at the outset of the show about Trump pulling back these consent decrees and getting rid of all these police department civil rights investigations. Listen, this, the South Africa discussion, that's not happening. CNN is spending all of its time talking about that bullshit-ass book on Joe Biden and cognitive, all that. I don't give a damn. I don't, because that ain't got nothing to do with today. There's an effort right now to defund Black America, to tear down the economic and the civil rights infrastructure, and they don't give a damn. That's what we focus on. And so your support is critically important to do that. And so if you want to contribute, join our Bring the Funk fan club. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing on average $50 each a year. That's $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. You support this show, the other shows on the Black Star Network. You support our new shows. We just shot a business pilot. We're working on a health show. It's a lot that we're doing here, and so your support is critical. If you want to give via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. This is it right here. Or go to blackstarnetwork.com. You want to send a check or money order, make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037 7-0196. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back.
This week on A Balanced Life, we are talking about the many women and female role models that play an integral role in our lives, from helping to boost our self-esteem to checking us when we get out of line. These women deserve their flowers for helping us to become who we are today.
The women in my lives who have just impacted me so much have challenged me. They're women who made me want to live right and love right.
That's all next on A Balanced Life here on Black Star Network.
This is Tamala Mann.
And this is David Mann. And you're watching Roland Martin
Unfiltered.
Let's go. Folks, how pathetic and trifling our Republicans are on Capitol Hill. So they have this big, beautiful bill that Donald Trump has been going hard for. So what do? They schedule discussions on it at 1 o'clock in the morning. Literally, at 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 a.m., they were on Capitol Hill. You had some Republicans falling asleep in committee hearings discussing this bill. It was a joke. It's an absolute joke. And let me explain to you. The only reason somebody would hold a hearing between 1 and 7 a.m. in the morning is so you would never know what happened. Look at this exchange with Congressman Joe Nagase and these fools.
Obviously, this isn't reasonable. It does not make sense. This isn't transparent to hold hearings at 3 a.m. on a bill of this size and this scope and this scale. That's not in the best interest of the country. You could just as easily delay it 5 hours, Let the American public have an opportunity to listen to this debate and then vote on the bill on Thursday. And all of you could go home for the district work period. So I don't, this false sense of urgency for 5 or 6 hours makes no sense. It's and again, I understand that's your rationale. I think the American people are smarter than the House Republican caucus are giving them credit for. They know what this is about. And when they wake up, invariably, later this morning, and they find that this bill was reported out of this committee in the dead of night, I think they'll reach their own conclusions about House Republicans' commitment or lack thereof to transparency.
Now, if you want to see one exchange, boy, this was amazing. Republicans are so arrogant that they know what's in their bill and how it screws regular, ordinary people. They were like, I'm not even going to read it. Watch this exchange.
Are you asking?
Would you please, so that the American public knows what this bill does, one of the little things that it does, would you please read page 901, line 20?
I think it'd be better if you read it.
Oh, he doesn't want to read it. I'll read it.
I know the
actually,
Ranking Member Moore,
Ranking Member Moore
here, so you can read it.
It was a question if you would read it, so I'll ask Ranking Member Moore to read the text. This is in their bill. They don't want to read a line from their own bill. Ranking Member.
I don't want to read the bill for you. I'll help you out. I am testifying about this legislation. I'm not going to read the bill to you.
Okay, I am. This is amazing.
Ms. Lager-Fernandez, shall I pass this back or shall I read it for you?
Why don't you just read it?
I am a member of this committee. I am the ranking vice chair of the committee. It says Section 111106, repeal of excise tax on indoor tanning services.
So they're going to repeal, they're repealing an excise tax on tanning beds. They're repealing a tax on silencers. At the same, so they're going to, okay, so if you have a tanning bed, you get a little bit of a tax break. And if you need a hospital bed in rural America, I'm sorry, you're out of luck.
Sounds about right. Just so you know, because it's always important to know who you're dealing with, that asshole there, who I'm not going to read it for you, is Jason Smith of Missouri. Look at this here. Farm kid from Salem, Christian, bullshit, rancher, small business owner, proud American, champions of the working class, the unborn, veterans, families, and gun owners. Yeah. But he's such an asshole. Now, I'm not going to read it for you. Now, the Medicaid cuts they're pushing could leave millions of low-income Americans without hospital care. Watch this.
Congresswoman, I was wondering if you would just talk to us on your way over to the conference meeting.
No.
Last time you spoke with us, you lied to our face and said that you weren't going to vote for Medicaid cuts. But then you've actually voted for the largest cuts to Medicaid in the history of the country. Do you have any comment on that? Do you have any comment on the 4 hospitals in your district that are going to close because of your vote? Representative Miller-Meeks, I'm wondering if you have any comment on the health care that 67,000 people in your district are going to lose? Does it concern you that you only won by 800 votes?
Now, the Congressional Budget Office, nonpartisan, they actually released their analysis of this bill. And they confirm Medicaid cuts. They confirm the folks who will benefit the most are the richest 1% of the country. Here is Congressman Jim Boyle laying out this whole issue. Go to my iPad.
As you know, statutory pay-go, which stands for pay-as-you-go, is a law that requires tax cuts and spending increases to be offset, meaning that they do not add to the deficit. If at the end of the year congressional legislation collectively violates pay-go, those deficit effects trigger across-the-board cuts to programs like Medicare. Does this bill trigger statutory pay-go?
Yes, and it's not me saying it. It is the Congressional Budget Office confirming it as of a couple hours ago. And look, this is really the breaking news, because when the Budget Committee kicked off this process approximately 3 months ago, there was a commitment by President Trump that there would be no Medicare cuts in this piece of legislation. And indeed, over the last several months, there's been no discussion of Medicare at all. There has been of Medicaid, but not of Medicare. Well, here we are tonight because, as you explained, because of the size of the deficits, because of the pay-go or pay-as-you-go act, that would trigger sequestration of Medicare, and it would total over $500 billion. The official figure that CBO confirms is $535 billion in cuts to Medicare.
And this bill doesn't waive statutory pay-go?
No, it does not.
So this will have a direct impact on Medicare and the federal budget, which is, again, I think a lot of people who are not following this as closely as you are probably are not aware of and will be surprised to learn about tomorrow.
There was Representative McGovern talking to Representative Boyle. Now, again, here's another Joe Nagays clip where he was just going at Jim Jordan, and to show you how stupid they are, Jordan couldn't even answer the questions. Roll it.
We'll walk through it together here. A constituent in Ohio who believes that their information was improperly released by the IRS. I remember you've served on the Judiciary Committee for many years. Hold on.
We're talking about in the context of immigration cases.
This is all cases. This is not immigration cases. The plain language of this statute that you have written applies to every conceivable case brought in a federal court, period. IRS cases, patent cases, immigration cases. If you have a constituent that sues the ATF, this provision applies to them. This is the point. And you can visit with your lawyers and maybe they can provide you with the clarity, but it is unquestionably the case that this provision applies to every plaintiff.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's
correct. I think we're on the same page now.
The judge can set the security at whatever level he wants. What's typically happened in these cases is he just waving it. No one's putting it up, and they're getting this injunction that applies nationwide,
correct.
Which is the concern.
I hear you.
Are you okay with the nationwide injunction issued by one single federal judge?
We'll get to that part, Mr. Jordan. Let's complete the analysis on this piece, because to your point, as you said, this particular provision doesn't require a specific amount of security. It's essentially saying to the federal court it has to require some security. And my point is that this is a deep deviation from existing federal law. This has never been the case. We've never said to constituents, hold on, Mr. Jordan, I'll finish this, I'll give you the chance to respond. We've never said to American citizens and constituents that in order to vindicate their rights in federal court, they're going to be required to provide a security when their constitutional rights have been violated by their government. And I find it astounding. I'm not sure that many of your colleagues understand the full import of this. They will by the time this gets to the floor. I imagine there will be a lot of limited government advocates who will find deep reasons to be concerned about this type of provision, because as you could imagine, it will preclude folks from being able to vindicate their constitutional rights. Now, I would also say the way that you have written it, as you've noted, it's retroactive, right? So this applies to any...
I just want to say the situation we're trying to address is what's been happening around the country.
You didn't write it that way.
As you know, a single federal judge gets cases brought to the judge. They waive the security and then issue a decision that applies nationwide to all immigrants who are in that situation.
Why didn't you put nationwide in this language?
Well, we can look at the language. I mean,
it's 6 a.m. You're voting on this thing in like 10 hours. What are we talking about?
It gets better. Here's Congresswoman Shontel Brown exposing more of these idiots. Anthony, go to my iPad.
Amendment would strike an especially harsh provision in this bill that is rooted in cruelty, not policy. This simple, straightforward amendment would strike the work requirement provision in this big, bad, ugly bill that lowers the age of what we call a dependent child from 18 to 7. from 18 years old to 7 years old. So I'm abundantly clear. We're saying that 8, 9, and 10-year-olds are no longer considered dependent children. Where did this come from? Why is this necessary? Since when is a first grader not a dependent child? Preventing families with children as young as 7 from losing food assistance, that is what we're debating here.
We're dealing with folk who, one, even other Republicans say they ain't read the bill. They are trying to shove all of this into a bill passed by reconciliation so no one can know what they're doing. This is all about how to hook up rich folk.
Absolutely. Like I'm old enough to remember when the Congressional Budget Office were Republicans' favorite friend, and now they're trying to run away from it. Like what we do know from the CBO is that this is going to cost Americans at least $5 trillion. At least $5 trillion. And the bottom line, just like some of the clips we saw earlier, it's going to cut rural hospitals. So for all of those Republicans out there, even some of those Democrats who live in rural areas, it's going to be thousands upon thousands upon thousands of folks in your district who will no longer have access to readily accessible medical care. So as we go into the midterms next year in 2026, it's going to be really interesting if we're going to see messaging around this bill. Because the bottom line is it will be devastating if this bill actually becomes law. But when we look at what President Trump said today, he said, you know what, you all are basically going to have hell to pay if you don't pass my bill. Don't completely touch and cut Medicaid, but even if you did, I'm going to take it personal if you don't pass this bill. And you know, I want to see whether or not the Republicans are strong enough to deal with a very feckless president, because the president can't take all of you all out. He can't primary you all. He doesn't have that reach. He doesn't have that power. And at the end of the day, no matter what that orange person says, he will not be on the ballot in 2028. But you're going to be on the ballot in 2028. You're going to be on the ballot in 2026. And at some point, you have to serve your constituents.
This is where, Derek, where you are CBC members and you're Democrats, you are pounding their asses. You know what? If I'm Democrat leader Jeffries, I'm coming up with a David Letterman-esque top 10 bullshit in the GOP bill. That's what has to be. To me, this is where you hammer them every single day, every single hour, every single minute, every single second.
And that is the message, Roland. That should be the message. In fact, that's the message yours truly is using. I mean, when you deconstruct this bill, this omnibus bill, Rebecca's right. It's $5 trillion. So those Republicans who typically say they're concerned about the debts and deficit, they're fiscal hawks, the DOJ is all about savings. You don't see it in this bill, Roland. And some of the hard parts, although the orange dude continue to say they don't want to touch Medicaid and Medicare, this bill touches Medicaid and Medicare. Medicare, you already mentioned it, $535 billion. Medicaid, affordable care, $880 billion. Then there is the SALT, the state and local tax, which is currently at $10,000. They want to raise it to $50,000. If they do that, Roland, that's $1.4 trillion. And so they cannot pay for a lot of the elements, and we're just talking about the macro. We're not even talking about sunbed, tanning beds, and other things that's going to negatively impact. You won't be able to get for energy conservation, refrigerators, washing and dryers. Things that are in the middle class that they typically leverage these tax credits for. All of that would be devastated. But the major things that we're talking about, Roland, we should be hammering this to the wheels fall off, because these folks are going to continue to hurt working class, middle class, because in the end, this bill, come 2026, if it passed right now, it's going to put a lot of folks in harm's way, and we need to continue to drive this message home.
Yeah, I mean, again, Larry, you got to hammer, because, listen, they don't even have the votes on their side. You got to say, oh, you going to vote for that? You gonna vote for that? You gotta hit them with everything, because you use all of that when it's time for them to run for re-election next year. You're on mute. Larry, you're on mute. Talk. Larry, talk.
Sorry.
All right, look like you're frozen. Yeah, your signal's frozen, Larry.
You highlighted it. The focus has to be on it. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now we got you. Go ahead. Guys, what is that? That is not Larry. What the hell is that photo? That ain't Larry. Larry, go ahead. Larry, just talk. Just talk. Put the camera on me. Larry, talk.
Can you hear me, Roland?
We got you. Go. All right, Larry's signal's still messed up, so y'all let me know when we got Larry back full. Rebecca, again, that has to be the strategy. You gotta force them to own everything in this bill, as Republicans would do with Democrats. I would pick out the most absurd stuff, crazy, absurd, and boom, top 10. Oh, did y'all see this one here? This one here? That's what you do to them.
If I was Hakeem Jeffries, I would show up in different congressional districts. I would go to the local food pantry and talk about how the food pantry shelves are bare. I would show up to some of these hospitals in rural areas and talk about how, guess what, this hospital is getting ready to shut down. And as people are going in and out of the hospital, I'm going to ask them questions like, hey, I'm Hakeem Jeffries, I'm the minority speaker of the House, and let me tell you what your member of Congress just voted to do. Like, take it to them. Whether or not members of Congress want to actually have town halls, create a town hall, show up in these districts. Like right now we see Bernie and we see AOC doing whatever it is that they're doing, but let's actually see leadership in the House, minority leadership in the House, also take it to the streets, take it to the people, and actually make the evening news. Because I guarantee you, if Hakeem Jeffries show up in Kansas City, Missouri, if Hakeem Jeffries show up in Liberty, Missouri, if he shows up in these different areas, the local news is going to cover it. If Hakeem Jeffries shows up in Iowa, if he shows up in Nebraska, in a congressional seat 2 with Don Bacon, and talks about the different cuts that Don Bacon is supporting, guess what? The local affiliates are going to cover that. And that's what it's going to take if we're actually going to see an agenda that is for the pro-working class and pro-Americans in this country. And we have to take it directly to the congressional district.
Absolutely. We got Larry back. All right, we'll have Larry back. Let me know. All right, let me go to a quick break. And we'll be right back. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Did we have a shopping guest?
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, have you ever had $1 million idea and wondered how to bring it to life? Well, it's all about turning problems into opportunities. On our next Get Wealthy, you'll learn of a woman who identified the overload bag syndrome, and now she's taking that money to the bank through global sales in major department stores.
And I was just struggling with 2 or 3 bags on the train. And I looked around on the train and I said, you know what? There are a lot of women that are carrying two or 3 bags.
That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
Hey y'all, welcome to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network and hosted by myself, Bria Baker, and my good sis, Jamira Burley. We are just 2 millennial women tackling everything at the intersection of politics, gender, and pop culture.
And we don't just settle for commentary. This is about solution-driven dialogue to get us to the world as it could be and not just as it is.
Watch us on the Black Star Network, so tune in to The Other Side of Change.
This week on A Balanced Life, we are talking about the many women and female role models that play an integral role in our lives, from helping to boost our self-esteem to checking us when we get out of line. These women deserve their flowers for helping us to become who we are today.
The women in my lives who have just impacted me so much, have challenged me. They're women who made me want to live right and love right.
That's all next on A Balanced Life here on Black Star Network.
Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm Devon Franklin. It is always a pleasure to be in the house. You are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. Stay right here.
Folks, welcome back to Roland Martin Unfiltered. Hey, we debuted yesterday our new site called shopblackstarnetwork.com. On that marketplace, we have our segment called Marketplace. First of all, y'all supposed to play Marketplace, the stinger. Y'all missed that, huh? Y'all don't segments Marketplace, y'all. So we're supposed to play that. So we have a segment called Marketplace where we feature black-owned businesses on the show. We've done that since we launched the show. So now we have, go to my iPad, now we have what is called shopblackstarnetwork.com. And so when you go to the site, you'll actually see all of these products. These are all products owned by African Americans. And so each day this week, you see right here, these gym wrapped by Nicole Ari Parker. We're going to be having her on. You see right here, Renegade Golf. We had them on the show before, and they're joining us right now. They actually, this is a black-owned company out of Atlanta, make their own golf balls. And so when we talk about Titleist, we talk about Callaway, we talk about Trixon, all the different golf balls, they make their own. I was in the Anthony Anderson Celebrity Golf Classic, and I actually played their balls, and they have two different types of balls. But last time we talked, they had two. I think they now have three. So joining us right now is Kenneth Duncan, CEO of Renegade Golf Company. Kenneth, glad to have you here. So again, last time y'all were on, you had a couple of balls. So where are you now? Because you see right here, we got Renegade Blueprint. Y'all are featuring the long drive, three-time long drive champion, Maurice Allen, on here. Then it says Renegade MBU TR3. So what the heck is that? Talk to me about these golf balls.
Well, first of all, you see the black and gold. You know, I had to represent there, but
come on now.
Yeah, but the Embu tray was an exciting development for us because that became our flagship premium golf ball. So you talked about Titleist, you talked about TaylorMade, you talked about Callaway. You know, we wanted a ball that could compete on tour and for all the best players. So for anybody looking for, you know, a high performance, high spin, great performing golf ball, this one is it right here, the Renegade Embu tray. Embu is actually a Nigerian word from the Igbo tribe. It means first of its kind, first of a line. So the Embu line of golf balls, we came out with three different in that line: the Embu Black, and the Embu Tray. The tray is, you know, in Greek life, the number 3, and now we have our 4 SKU, the Blueprint you referenced before.
Now we know how things work in golf. You know, Golf Digest has their, you know, always their hot list. Have you guys been a part of that testing? Any kind of ranking, anything like that?
Yeah, actually, so last year after we run the show, our flagship golf ball, the Renegade Embu, was on the Golf Digest hot list, top golf balls in the world. You know, they haven't released the list yet for this year, but we expect Renegade to again be on the list. So Golf Digest has recognized us now as one of the top golf balls in the world for both performance and innovation. You know, we've been in Golf Channel, we've been in Sports Illustrated. So, no, it's definitely becoming something that people are seeing and recognizing.
Yeah, well, I'm looking here. It says 2025 hot list, but they've got drivers, fairway woods, hybrids, irons, wedges, and putters. I'm looking for the balls. Let's see here. Oh, let's see. Well, that's best new golf balls of 2025. That's their list. And to tell folks again, look, I've been playing golf since 1987. So tell people, I mean, how huge of an industry this is.
Yeah, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and for a long time, it's been dominated really for 2 large players. You know, Titleist and Callaway own about 70% of the golf ball market in the world. So when we started this company as a black-owned brand, the first ever black-owned golf ball company, we went directly head-to-head against those 2 behemoths. Now, there's a lot of smaller companies that are starting now, your Vices, your Cuts, your Snells, Kirkland, that are producing golf balls at a high level. But it really is an industry that's been dominated by 2 or 3 players for a long number of years.
Again, so look, golfers are very particular about golf balls, and so explain. So, are the difference between, are these 2 different type of balls, or is this a different branding of the same ball?
Yeah, so the Blueprint golf ball, so we did something unique. We really target, 3 different types of golfers as our core base: millennials, moms, and minorities. And we found a lot of those emerging groups in the game of golf weren't looking for the premium golf ball. So our Renegade Blueprint golf ball is an entry-level ball. Think like, your Titleist Tour Soft. That's meant to be an entry-level ball, cheaper price point. It's still urethane, but it's a $25 price point. So it's kind of designed for people to...
Yeah, so let's say, the Blueprint, you did with beginners.
Yep, beginners, slower swing speeds, juniors. Parents are buying a ball for their kids. Whereas the Imbu line is really designed for high-performing players, collegiate players, professionals, looking for more performance to compare against your Pro V1, Pro V1X.
So I'm looking on the back here, and I see Imbu Black, Imbu TR3. So I'm a 4.5 handicap. So which of your balls should I be playing?
I think really the Imbu series, all of them offer something unique depending on your swing speed. But handicap-wise, I think the Imbu tray would be a good fit for you. It's 90 core compression. So we kind of compare that to the Pro V1 and Pro V1X, a little bit higher.
See, there you go. So, and Pro V1, Pro V1X is considered that's the ball everybody competes against.
That's the one. They ask us about that one every time.
That's the one. So I can't wait to test these out. Rebecca, you were all excited when I mentioned Renegade Golf, part of shopblackstarnetwork.com. You play golf?
So I'm a casual golfer. I'm a lefty.
I ain't never seen a video. I need some evidence.
I got proof.
Where is it?
So first of all,
is it on your Instagram page? Do you have it on your phone?
It will be tonight.
Oh hell no! See. That's how I test folk right there, Pratt. I was like, hold up, I ain't never seen your swing.
So here's the thing, I don't put all my business on Instagram.
No, damn that.
That's Gen X. I'm a millennial.
No, hell no. Real golfers ain't scared. Real golfers ain't scared to show they swing. Folk who are marginal golfers, they ain't trying to show nothing. Go ahead with your little question.
Okay, I'm gonna be at Langston. I'm gonna be practicing. So if I
that means you ain't got no video. See, I told y'all she busted. She busted.
Look.
Langston
is a historically black course.
Don't be trying to go historical black. You ain't got no evidence of your golf swing. But go on with your little question.
It's Memorial Day weekend coming up. I think it's gonna be sunny a couple of days. I'm gonna go out there. It's been a while since I've been out.
That shit don't mean nothing.
I haven't been out all season.
Real golfers play cloudy. Go on with your little questions. Go on.
I'm telling my truth here.
Go on with your. See, just so y'all know, I ain't playing. This is from the Anthony Anderson Golf Tournament on Monday. This was a par 5. We'd already hit our drive. We were sitting 220 yards out. And so I needed to drop the graphics. I needed to put this sucker on the green in 2. And so, I filmed this in slow motion. Don't hate. That's a smooth ass swing. We missed the eagle putt, but we made the birdie. But real golfers got actual video of their stuff. Rebecca, go ahead with your little question.
Look, I've been coached by my cousins who are black semi-pros.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Play.
Let's see they swing too. Go ahead.
One has a technical approach, the other has a very athletic approach.
All right.
So that means my swing kind of got to be in the middle.
Oh, Lord, here we go. Now, Fran, she tried to put it on her cousin. Go ahead.
So that said, which ball would you recommend? Because I haven't been out in a while. I'm guessing I probably should stick with some of the beginner swings. But can you talk about the fabrication of your balls and how the construction of it makes it competitive?
Well, all of our golf balls are urethane, and that's unique. Most brands offer 2 different types of really hard-feeling balls. They're called Cyril. We offer all urethane balls, so all of them have a really premium feel to them. We didn't want to sacrifice quality by going ahead and giving you our cheaper ball with a hard cover. So all of them have soft covers. I think if you try the Blueprint as a beginning player and somebody who hasn't played a lot, you'll still be very satisfied by A, the performance, and B, the quality for the price. So I'd say look at that, explore there. We had 2 other SKUs, at Imbu Black and Imbu, that actually sold out. We had them for a long time, and we sold dozens and dozens of them actually at Langston's. We actually sell our golf balls, and Langston was actually the first golf course in the country to bring Renegade Golf into their clubhouse. So that's kind of a fun fact there in DC. But I'd say the Blueprint would be a great fit because it doesn't sacrifice anything from a ball construction standpoint. it's still urethane. It still has multiple pieces to it, and it's still designed for, up to a high level swing speed.
All right, so Rebecca, this is a little drone shot from when we played. So just want to let you know.
Drone shot.
Yeah, that's right. Oh no, I had the DJI Neo drone out there. Just let them know how that's done. So stuck that till about 12 feet from the pin. But go right ahead. Go right ahead with your question, Larry.
Yeah, so I'm really curious in terms of production. I know that you talked about some of the larger companies that have been around for years, and I'm curious in terms of the overall cost of your production and how you make sure that what you sell obviously exceeds in terms of what you're producing.
Yeah, so that's a great question, and the question a lot of people ask, to be honest with you. And actually, how we started with golf bags years ago. An individual who actually worked for Titleist and Callaway previously in both supply chain and R&D, approached us and said, hey, I see what your mission and vision is as a company, and we can help you with the design and the supply chain resources necessary to build a premium golf ball company. So since then, we've only manufactured the highest quality golf ball companies in the world. We manufacture right alongside Callaway Golf. We manufacture right like some Mizuno Golf and Srixon. So we really are in the highest performing manufacturing plants, and we have a very strict quality standard that we hold ourselves to, which I think the Golf Digest feature and whatnot kind of alludes to that in our performance. But no, it was a really good good thing for us that he ran into us and wanted us to be a part of his team.
Derek, first of all, Larry, do you play golf?
You know what, Roland?
I'm just go ahead and say no. When y'all start with that, you know what, Roland? Just say no. Go ahead.
Listen, Fred, I'm getting there. I'm working on it.
Oh, that's Brad too? Okay. Well, 6 for the good bros.
All right, well, again, when they start with that, you know what, Roland? Just go ahead and just say no.
Right, just say no.
Yeah, Derek also frat too. Go ahead, Derek. Derek, you right there in Atlanta.
I'm in Atlanta, but Roland, I don't golf, Roland.
The hell is wrong with you?
Listen, because on an aircraft carrier during my time in the Navy, we hit the balls. The balls, we can't go and get it.
It's an ocean.
So I'm telling you.
But you're not on your ass on the land now. All these excuses. See, listen, if you I'm trying to tell you, son. See, if you trying to see, Larry, you got to do this here, Larry. This is all I'm saying right here. I mean, you got to be able to just understand how to see. Rebecca ain't got no videos. Let me bring it back because it skipped. Rebecca ain't got no videos like this here. Rebecca, I'm just saying that's just smooth. Larry, go ahead with your little question.
So my question, first of all, congratulations, good brother, on your success, because this is not a industry that you find us manufacturing golf balls, and so congratulations. And so speaking of manufacturing, it's my understanding that China and Taiwan are where most golf balls are manufactured. Where's your golf balls manufactured? And if it is in China, do you anticipate, being, hit with some tariffs? How are you going to mitigate this whole thing around tariffs and import? Because there's a certain threshold as it relates to certain products coming in and out of the United States right now.
Yes, brother, that's a great call, and it's something I dance with every day. So you caught it right on. We do manufacture in both China and Taiwan. Our more premium balls are coming from Taiwan, and the lower cost balls from China. Tariffs have a tremendous impact. The Blueprint golf ball has been our highest selling golf ball to date. But, the cost of tariffs, when we reached to our freight forwarder, and he said in a span of a week, your cost for taxes and tariffs have gone up 6x. That's hard for a smaller minority-owned company to absorb.
Yep.
And what it causes you to do is to wait. You have to go ahead and wait out those tariffs and hope that our president decides to, change his tune. And, it creates a lot of uncertainty. I got an email the day that there was a tariff break to say, hey, Kenneth, Renegade, you want to bring your golf balls in now because tariffs have dropped down temporarily and may go up again in a month. That level of uncertainty is hard to forecast and plan upon, but it's the reality that we're sitting in now, and I think we just have to adjust and be agile accordingly.
Absolutely. And since Rebecca ain't got no actually videos at all, Y'all turn the audio up so you can hear what a well-struck ball sounds like. I was playing Sunday in the first round with the long driver, Josh Jackson, out of Cincinnati, and we were playing, and he can boom the ball. But, you know, I handle my business.
Handle it.
Great ball.
He needed the drone on that. That's a kick hard, too. Appreciate it. See, I was like, I kept looking because I was trying to see how far it went because that's why I ain't picked the tee up. I'm just saying, Rebecca, you know.
But you only show us our best shots.
Oh no, baby, I know what I shot. I know, cause I ain't dribbling the ball down the fairway like you are. Sorry, don't even try that. Don't even try that. I mean, I think I have a video where I missed a putt. But, boo, that's all we got. Again, all right, y'all. So, Fred, you're saying I should be playing the MBU TR3s.
Yes, sir. You got no excuse now. I saw you at Steve Harvey's last year. So this year, I'm hoping that you got the Embu tray in tow with you, the black and gold box. You can't turn it down.
All right, I'm gonna do that. Now, do y'all got y'all have any hats or shirts or anything, or just balls?
Yeah, we make hats. We make hats as well. You know, we have a red and black, blue and white hat, and we do some different stuff. We have some different black brands we're trying to partner with as we come out with more apparel throughout the summer. All
right, so now y'all had a fitted hats or them damn snapbacks?
Got the snapback.
Oh, hell no, I hate this. Let me know when y'all got the fitted one. I can't stand the snapback hats. Matter of fact, I was wearing one in this video here. I was wearing snapback, and I literally was playing. I said, let me send my assistant to order some new damn hats. I can't stand them snapback hats. That's just me. I can't stand them. Hey. But anyway, all right, folks, if you play golf, if you know a golfer, listen, everybody who's watching and listening, let me help y'all out, okay? A golfer is the easiest person to buy birthday, anniversary, Christmas gifts for. I need everybody listening to me, okay? There's not a golfer I know that will ever turn down some new free golf balls. If y'all are confused about you got a man, you got a woman, you got a grandfather, daddy, you're like, man, I don't know what to buy. Trust me, I'm telling y'all as a golfer, you cannot go wrong buying some golf balls. They might have 400 balls in the garage. They ain't got no problem with a new new pack of golf balls. I'm just trying to tell y'all. So go to shop.
I'm gonna start on Father's Day. Father's Day is coming up soon. It's a great Father's Day gift. You know, shop Black Star Network during Father's Day. You know, we got a couple weeks to find that right gift for that new golfer. So there it is, right there.
Yeah, I'm telling y'all, all y'all watching, I'm telling y'all. So I want y'all to do this here. I want y'all to go to my iPad. I want y'all to go to shopblackstarnetwork.com. And then I want y'all to scroll down, and you're going to see right here. Yesterday, we had Ezra Coffee on. I want y'all to scroll down and go to Renegade Golf. You see the 3 golf balls right there, the TR3, MBU, TR3, $37.99. The entry-level golf balls are the Renegade Blueprint golf balls are $24.99. When you click the button, it says shop the full collection. There are 3. There's the Renegade Blueprint. There's the Renegade MBU TR3 golf ball. And that's yellow, and then the other one is white. Is that what this other one is?
Yep, we got a yellow option, a high visibility option, and a white option.
All right, so the yellow for y'all blind people, but the white golf ball as well. So those are the 3 golf balls for Renegade Golf. Again, black-owned company, y'all. Again, as look, we all about. We're just talking about with South African Americans and businesses. It's about building wealth. We buy golf balls anyway. We buy product. So let's support black-owned companies. Kenneth Duncan, I appreciate you being back on the show. And yes, I will be testing these out. It was raining today. It was cloudy. You see, I'm wearing this thick-ass damn pullover because temperature was 53 degrees. I'm like, what happened to the sun? I was just in Palm Desert just yesterday. But I'm going to take the weather report. I may go out and play at least 9 tomorrow. So I will give my report on these golf balls here, the Embu TR3s. We appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, then. And so, again, folks, if you're watching at home, share this website, shopblackstarnetwork.com. There are multiple products all on here. And so you see Sweet Treats, Renegade Golf, Gym Wrap, and so you got Marketplace, you got different brownies, you got HBCU shirts, visors, all sorts of products that are on here. And then this is what you can do. And so we appreciate it. We'll be adding new products as well. We're featuring these owners right here on the show. All right, folks, that is it for us today. We had a bunch of other stuff we want to get to. We'll get to it tomorrow. So let me thank Rebecca, so-called golfer. Let me thank Frat Larry. He don't play golf. Matter of fact, but that Larry, didn't you post a video from the driving range on Instagram? Didn't I see something like that?
No, I don't.
No, you didn't. That's my whole point. That's my whole point. So yes, that's my whole point. And Derek, come on, Derek, is all you got to get. Get a glove. You right-handed, left-handed.
Right hand.
Go to a golf store, Golf Galaxy, Dick's Sporting Goods, PGA store, whatever. Get you a glove for your left hand and just get you a 56-degree sand wedge. That's the only club you need to hit for 6 months. Larry, you too. That's all. Learn a golf.
I'm going to go to Renegade. Renegade's right here in Atlanta. So
yeah, that's for balls. They ain't got no gloves in clubs. That's balls.
Okay.
That's just balls. But that's just balls. So get you that. That's how you can start. You got clubs?
I do. I'm a lefty. Like, you can't depend on showing up somewhere and that you have adequate
you got a full
clubs.
set or you got an actual?
A full set.
Okay. Well, I'm left-handed. I'm left-handed too, so we need to see some. We need to see some evidence of your.
Go to my Instagram, and I'm gonna put up some evidence.
Oh, y'all see. Go, and I'm gonna put some up. So don't go right now.
At Politics Rebecca, REBEKAH.
Let's see right here, Politics. Y'all go to Politics Rebecca. Let's see. You got 24 hours. Matter of fact, y'all, tomorrow's show, I'm going to pull up her Instagram and let's see if she has any videos of her golf swing, and I will analyze it live right here on the show. What?
Go ahead.
You better find the best one.
Bring it on.
You better find the best one.
We had Top Golf tonight.
Yeah, you better. That means she ain't got no videos. She just had videos. She ain't got none, y'all.
I got videos.
She like, I'm going to run the Top Golf in about 15 minutes to get one video. Just swing the club in the living room or something. See? Do y'all see what happens why you can't ask one question? See, you can't be deep. You got to be deeper than mustard on a hot dog. So you got to hit that third and fourth question, then the truth is revealed. All right. Rebecca, Larry, Derek, I appreciate y'all being on today's show. Thank you so very much. Folks, support the work that we do. Again, y'all know how we do it. On this show, on this network, we center black people. That ain't what happened to the rest of these folks. They don't center blackness. Okay? We may be a part of the conversation. No, we center African Americans here. You can benefit. Anybody can benefit from the content on this show. Anybody can, if you play golf, anybody can buy the golf balls. But we want to be able to focus on black-owned businesses because they don't get the same attention as you get elsewhere. All right, folks. So if you want to join our Bring the Funk fan club, this is real simple. Our goal is to raise $1 million a year from our fan base. I purposely do not charge people a subscription fee. There are people, when I launched this show 6.5 years ago, they told me, Roland, you should be doing subscription. You should be doing Patreon. You should be charging people. But I wanted the content widely available. So we depend upon our fans. Since we launched this show September 4th, 2018, we've had 35,000 individual donors. And we scroll their names every single Friday to thank them for their support. So we want you to be one of them. We have more than 4,000 people watching today live on YouTube. We have people watching on other platforms. But if you're watching just to be watching, understand this stuff costs money, okay? Staff, crew costs money. The equipment, all this stuff costs money. The facility, I just signed a new lease, y'all, and the reality is our studio is $25,000 a month. Yes, the rent went up, but we're able to do all these things as a result of having infrastructure, but infrastructure costs money. So if you want to support us via Cash App, remember Cash App closed down all of our accounts because they changed their rules as to the type of companies that can have Cash App accounts. And so if you want to support us via Cash App, we use a Stripe QR code. So use this QR code to be able to support us. Keenan, make sure we have the link on not just the QR code, but the link. And I'll post it on social, put it on social as well, how to give us to give via Cash App. You can send your check and money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 2003 7-0196. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Also understand, folks, that this is when you get the app. When you download the app, this is what the site looks like right here. And I'm actually having our website being rebuilt by a black-owned company, Quantasy, out of Los Angeles. And it's going to be a news portal. You'll be able to access all our information. Right now, you really are just accessing on the site. You're just accessing, again, all of this. But we're going to have all of that. And so that's, again, so when you give to us, you're also supporting that. And I'm going to tell you, that's costing us thousands of dollars to have that website completely rebuilt. So do that. Be sure to, of course, buy my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. Available at bookstores nationwide. We're going to have that available on the website soon as well. Plus, shop blackstarnetwork.com. And then you can, of course, download the audio version on Audible. If you want to buy our gear, go to rolandmartin.creator-spring.com. You see our shirts. Keenan, you got to give me the graphic for the FAFO shirt. That's the old one. I need the new one. The new one's, y'all, is going to have FAFO, but it's going to have Project 2025, but Project is going to be crossed out. FAFO is going to be on top, 2025 on the bottom. It's going to be the new T-shirt. But you see the other one we have, MAGA chose between woke or broke. They chose broke. There was an Anthony Scaramucci quote. We put it on the shirt, so y'all can get that as well. And, of course, get the shirt that everybody loves. Don't blame me. I voted for the black woman. QR code there as well. And don't forget, we want you to, of course, download the app, Fanbase. You can also, if you want to invest, they've raised $12 million. The goal is $17 million. The Series A raise. Go to startengine.com/Fanbase. Y'all, that's it. I'll see y'all tomorrow right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Holla! Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?